A very warm welcome to a new episode of C&B. I am Siddharth Vinayak Patankar. A quick glimpse of the new iCNG range from Tata Motors. This is the Tiago iCNG. A lot of interest around this. You'll have more details, of course, on our website. But let's get on with our top story. It's another car that got a huge facelift, one that was anticipated and, in fact, somewhat delayed coming to India. The new Kodiaq from Skoda, the flagship SUV, has a lot to talk about.
The full-size SUV segment has seen newcomers last year, like the MG Gloster and even the Tiguan All-Space. But you know what it's also seen? Models like the Ford Endeavour and the Honda CR-V make an exit. In fact, the All-Space 2 is no longer available in the market. And so the options you are left with are the Toyota Fortuner, Mahindra Alturas G4 and the MG Gloster. And so, it is the opportune time for Skoda to bring in the Kodiaq Facelift. The facelift made its global debut in July 2021 and it's taken some time to get here. But enough talk and let's dive straight into what has changed.
Now, the Kodiaq gets a more upright stance than before. The earlier one looked like a station wagon for most people, and yes, there were complaints about that. But Skoda has corrected that in the facelift version. So you get a more upright stance. So that has been achieved by basically raising the bonnet a bit. Then this butterfly grille, which is again more upright than before, and it just raises the car up front. Now then you have these crystalline elements which you see in the headlamps also. These are LED headlamps. They are not matrix LEDs. We do not get that in India, though it is available globally. But they look nice for sure. It's more angular than before. And of course you have a totally new front bumper. And it looks pretty good as well. Now the main thing in the front bumper are these air curtains. Now that you see there, the air goes through that, makes the car more aerodynamic than before.
Move to the profile and you'll see that it hasn't changed much. The sharp lines and curves remain very much part of the car. While a lot has changed on the outside, the inside receives some major updates.
Now the first thing that you notice here is this two-spoke steering wheel. This is not standard though, because there is a three-spoke that you get on the Sportline trim. But it is really nice. All the settings are right here and it's very nice to hold, in fact. Then you have this 10.25 inch digital instrument cluster, which has 5 displays on offer and you can easily change them. And of course, you get all the information that you need right here. But with this update, you also get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto wireless, that too. And all this soft touch material that you see here adds to the sense of space and the sense of opulence up front. So that's a great thing. Also, a talking point, of course, is the 8-inch touchscreen infotainment system. Now, this is extremely slick and very responsive, very intuitive. So yes, a big thumbs up on that. And now it comes with inbuilt navigation. Of course, if you have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, then you don't need that. But the fact remains that there are certain places where cell towers just don't give you reception. That's when the inbuilt navigation really comes up and helps you. The sense of space remains, and that is a great thing to have. And of course, the panoramic sunroof adds to the ambience of it all. The front seats are extremely comfortable, very nice, very snug, and you get electric adjustment also there. And now with the update, you also get heating and cooling functions, which is great. But the thing that you miss the most here is if it had a massage function. Now, if the front seats did have massage function on it, then the Kodiaq in fact would become the most accessible car with massage seats up front.
Now the update under the hood is also a significant one, because from an all-diesel lineup, the Kodiaq has gone the petrol way, in line with the company's strategy for India.
Now this one gets a 2-liter turbocharged petrol motor which punches out 187 brake horsepower and 320 Newton meters of torque. Now, according to Skoda, 0 to 100 kilometers is done in 7.8 seconds, and we don't dispute that one bit because there is good enough power on offer. And I say that because earlier the complaints with the Kodiaq were always related to it being underpowered. Now there shouldn't be any, frankly, coming from there. So that part has been addressed by Skoda Auto India. Now there are 4 driving modes on the car. There's comfort, eco, sport, and even individual. And all these modes cater to your driving style, which is good. But I'd really like to talk about the dynamic chassis control, because what you select on the mode front is basically how the damping is adjusted, and that helps you in driving better. Like if I have right now chosen sport mode, so everything is a bit firmed up, and even on twisty roads, even if I just kind of wave through the twisties, it does offer a lot more in terms of dynamism, and it's again more like a hot hatch when you drive it that way, because you enjoy driving it. And hence there is less body roll that you see inside the cabin, and even the people inside are fairly okay with you driving around twisty roads. So that's exactly the kind of thing that makes everyone inside the cabin happy, and of course because it works very effectively.
There are 9 airbags standard on the car, and then you have ABS, EBD, multi-collision braking system, hill hold assist and hill descent control. You also get park assist and more driver assist systems. So yes, it's been well thought of to make the Kodiaq a more rounded product, and kudos to Skoda for making it happen. Now finally to the price. The prices of the Kodiaq begin at 35 lakh rupees and go all the way to 37 lakh 49,000 rupees for this top end version. Now compare these prices to the Alturas G4 and you'll see that even the 4WD top end version is close to 4 lakh cheaper than the base variant of the Kodiaq. The Gloster too is more affordable, but its savvy variant with the ADAS tech is more than 1 lakh rupees expensive than the Kodiaq. Finally, we compare it to the segment leader, the favorite Toyota Fortuner, and we notice that the 4x4 manual costs more by 1 lakh rupees compared to the base variant of the Kodiaq. Skoda then has played it smartly with the pricing of the Kodiaq. It absolutely hits the sweet spot. No wonder then that it has already sold the first batch of its cars. The Kodiaq is engaging and with the update looks to power through all the competitors in its segment. But the Fortuner will surely be one strong cookie to crumble. And we can't wait to compare them both to find out.
2022 has begun on a promising note for the automobile sector. Despite all the challenges that remain, it does seem to be promising from the point of view of the kind of year it's going to be. Now, one brand that really stood out last year was, of course, Tata Motors. Not just for its product news, but also for its business and strategic developments. And of course, there's a lot that can be expected, therefore, from Tata Motors in 22 also. It's already kicked things off by bringing us the iCNG range. It's a new range of CNG-powered vehicles that Tata has introduced. To speak about that and a whole lot more, joining me now is the person helming the passenger vehicles division at Tata Motors, Shailesh Chandra. It's great to see you, Shailesh. Welcome.
Thank you, Siddharth, and wishing you a very happy new year and so happy to be in your show.
Wish you the same, and I am very grateful for your time. I have to start, before I even get into the CNG part of it, I have to congratulate you. We are very, very happy to have another Indian in the shortlist for the World Cup Person of the Year, and I couldn't have thought of a better person. So I'm very, very thrilled and very pleased for you.
Thank you, Siddharth. It's a very humbling experience. I think I represent a larger group who has been behind the stellar performance of PV, and of course, this is an acknowledgement for the entire team's effort. Thank you for that.
In many ways, I think the timing of this really sort of is emblematic of what's happening at Tata Motors. I mean, just 2 years ago, I know there were people who were ready to write you off completely. Today, we find that you're not just in a sort of a very exciting phase of product development and launch, but it's also a very vibrant situation when it comes to the kind of work that's happening, the R&D, and also the avenues and areas that you're getting into as a manufacturer. iCNG, it says it behind you there. That's a whole new approach towards the CNG space. It's not the first time that you've launched CNG products, but it does seem to be a new approach towards CNG.
Absolutely, Siddharth. And while we have been seeing in the last 2 years that the trend of CNG cars has been increasing, primarily on the back of 2-3 reasons. One is the rising petrol and diesel prices, where customers, and especially in the hatch and compact sedan segment, are looking for more cost-effective option from a running cost perspective. But also it has to do with the increasing availability of CNG stations in the country, which has now gone up to 3,500. And you are seeing the commitment of the government through CGD initiative that there is an intention of bringing about 800 to 1,000 stations every year. So you're also seeing those enabling factors coming into play. And also you remember that after BS6, especially in the hatch and compact sedan segment, diesel got vacated as a segment, and therefore customers who are very sensitive about running costs, they had this option which went away from them. And that's the reason why these two segments are the hot segments as far as CNG is concerned. And that's the reason for this launch. Now, how we are differentiating our approach versus generally the other CNG variants which are available in the market. Once we did the survey in the market, there were concerns in the customers around performance of the car. It was around the safety. There have been different kind of incidences which have happened in CNG cars, and that was the other concern. And also the choices which are available as far as CNG options are concerned are more available on the lower trims with lesser features and all. So therefore, the 4 pillars on which we worked was to see how we can best keep the performance intact, how we are able to bring fail-safe features so that any remote chance of anything going wrong is taken care of through automatic actions, within the car. And of course, inherently, the car is very safe. It comes from a lineage which is a very safe car. These 2 cars are, one of the safest cars in their category. And thirdly, the ECUs and all which we have used are, absolutely the high-tech ones, which optimizes the performance in the best possible manner. So the technology bit is very, very state-of-the-art. And features are, features that you get. We have brought it in higher trims with more, features like automatic headlamps, rain sensing wipers, and all those kind of features, so that we are able to take the aspiration quotient of CNG vehicles, which was very low. And this is the differentiated approach as far as we are concerned.
It's interesting because you mentioned a lot of things that I planned to sort of ask you about. Now, when it comes to the CNG buyer, as I said, you used to have CNG models earlier too, but you're right, the approach was so focused on the efficiency or the running cost aspect that it was assumed that this was really a budget buyer who was happy to compromise other things too. What part of your strategy comes from this belief that the consumer is looking for an evolved product? Because making the CNG kit itself or the safety aspect of the technology just better, that's part of evolution anyway. But to bring this in a slightly more premium package, that is a first for the market. What drove you towards that?
One is that, once you're giving a CNG technology, there is an immediate access to a lower running cost, which is hygiene, when you bring a CNG variant. And when you connect with the customers where the profile is changing a lot, you have young customers who are looking for performance, who are ready to pay for features, and not giving that, assuming in a very stereotypical manner that somebody who's looking for a low running cost is less, looking for aspirational features. I think that was the change in thinking. the profile of the customers is changing. 63% of the buyers are less than 35 years. And youth is ready to spend today on features. For youth, car is an object of self-expression, and they want to, just like they wear different kind of branded clothes, they want to wear cars which reflect their personality, which is more self-expressive. And keeping all this in mind, I think we wanted to just take the aspirational quotient higher and live to what our brand is now being associated with. I think these were the factors that went behind this thinking.
All right. You mentioned the safety aspect. I was with safety, which is great. And, even in today's presentation, I saw that the dual airbags, ABS are standard. When it comes to the rigidity of the structure, etc., there was talk about high strength steel. Given that the Tigor and the Tiago are already, really robust when it comes to crash safety, we've seen the ratings from Global NCAP. What part of that applies to the CNG versions? Because there is a minor modification. There is the tank, there is the new kit, but I know the rest of the structure would be similar. Can we safely assume that it scores well on crash safety?
Absolutely, it takes the same foundation as what it was for a petrol car, but there are, as you rightly said, that there are certain elements which have changed, and therefore it is in the process of undergoing the star rating part of it, which is something where we don't compromise. So this is something which we'll be able to only declare at the right time, Siddharth. But that would be the intention of maintaining the strong pillar of safety that we have embarked upon as one of the key philosophies of our products.
I'm thrilled to hear that, and I'm not surprised to hear it also. When it comes to the application itself, I know it's going to be early days when we actually see the kind of response, who's the buyer who really comes in and buys it, etc. But given that you're looking at an aspirational buyer, someone who's very upwardly mobile, at what point would you consider an automatic CNG?
We are actively thinking of it. So that first, we would like to see the response of the market in the manual side and with the aspirational features that we have taken. And if there are any adjustments needed, we would do that before introducing an automatic version. But it is very clear that the penetration of automatic has been increasing, and that's a locked-in trend. It is imminent that at some point in time, we would actively look towards introducing an automatic version also. But we will be able to talk about it once we have something closer to launching this kind of a product.
Sure, and I'm glad to know that you're considering it. Now, when it comes to the supply chain as well as the overall production plan, I know there are constraints when it comes to the chip shortage, so I'll talk about that later. But just the whole picture, when you take that into account, the fact that you're making the CNG option for buyers more cool, a little bit more mainstream, how does it fit into your overall strategy in terms of what sort of percentage of overall production could go towards CNG? Do you really want this to ramp up into a sizable volume?
Absolutely, and I also mentioned in the earlier press conference also that our aim would be that we penetrate to the extent of 30 to 35% of our sales of these two models, which would mean that at an overall level, we would be in the zone of 7 to 10% penetration of CNG. And that is what we would target in the foreseeable future. In near term, I would say. It'll also further, it has the potential of improving because as more and more CNG stations come up in more and more districts based on the rollout of the CDG initiative of the government, I think there will be greater penetration of CNG, what we would see in our portfolio also because of that reason, because that's the main enabling factor behind the growth of CNG. I would just like to give you some data point of cities where there is availability of a lot of stations like Mumbai, Ahmedabad, or Pune, or a Delhi. You will see penetration of models in hatches and compact sedans going up to upwards of 75%. So if there is an expansion of the stations that you see in the coming years, I would not be surprised to see a higher contribution coming from CNG models, especially in these segments.
You actually partly answered my next question about where these buyers are, but you also mentioned, that you would then actively look at maybe bringing CNG to other vehicles in the portfolio. Is it sort of fair to just assume that we're talking about cars like the Altros or the Nexon, or could it be, potentially the larger cars too?
Yeah, each segment has very different preference. Siddharth, buyers are having very different requirement when they purchase an SUV. They are more performance oriented, and therefore there will always be a section of buyers in each segment which would look for a CNG option. But the intensity of purchase or critical mass will be more in certain segments, the ones which we have chosen as of now. But there are few more segments which we think is going to see a reasonable penetration. We have identified them and we'll start working on that. But today, if you ask me to visualize whether it cuts across all the segments today, the answer would be no. It might not make sense in certain segments, given the consumer preference and predominantly what they are looking for. So over a period of time, we'll see the response of the market, how the overall situation is evolving. We'll do more consumer research before we take any kind of an action in terms of conceptualizing our product. And then as we move forward, the CNG is going to definitely increase as an option.
So, as you can see, a whole lot to talk about from Tata Motors. Great news coming out on Shailesh making it to the World Car Person of the Year shortlist. That is great for our industry, certainly great for Tata Motors as well. This car, we can't tell you anything about it right now because, of course, we're still under that embargo. But yes, by next week, you will get all the details on carandbike.com, on our YouTube channel, and of course, here on the show. Please wear your seatbelts. Please take care of yourselves. And if you're stepping out, please do wear your double masks. I'm going to do the same. And maybe clock a few kilometers on this car. Take care.